Hi, everybody. This is Tom Murphy of Pensacola, Florida. I wanted to welcome you today to one of our episodes on entrepreneurship. Having done a touch of private practice and being a sole practitioner, doing a variety of things from counseling to training to teaching to executive coaching, I have just a tiny little sense of what that world may be, although it was worlds ago by way of anybody's chronometer. So with that, we thought we'd bring the best and the brightest together. I'm sorry, that doesn't include Dr. Leo Sandy. No, I'm only kidding, my close friend. But we thought we would bring a bunch of folks together to be able to talk about this whole idea of entrepreneurship. How did you get there? What's the pros and cons of it? What are the highs and lows? What do you have to do to keep it going, keep it driven, particularly during the good times and the bad times? And with that foundation, I'd like to just do a quick introduction to a number of our people today. We have Jim Sparks, who's one of our regulars, who's kind of keeping us in touch with how to go about this tech operation. We also have Tom Panis. There's my friend Tom Panis down there, who's been with us for some period of time, friend of mine also. And at the very bottom, at least of my screen, is Dr. Leo Sandy coming to us from New Hampshire. And today we have a couple of special guests. I'm going to start with Jem Costa. And Jem from Florida, who I'll just say as an aside, I've known since birth. So I'll just leave it like that and let you think about that and what that may mean. But Jem really gave me the first idea decades ago of what this thing was supposed to be. I didn't even know what entrepreneur was, but he was the one that showed me. But he's been involved in a variety of industry innovations, in a creator. Many ways, I've got many of my pieces from Jem. And how did he do this? But he's launched a number of the world's most exciting companies, everything from online gaming to cannabis. And there's some smoke here. Let me just take that. So with that in mind, I want to move on to Abraham Sculley. You folks, if you've seen any of our other episodes, Abraham has been one of our guests on another episode. But just as a quick review, Abraham is a mental health advocate, also an Amazon best-selling author. I was wondering if I could use his account to begin my ordering. Abraham, I do Amazon Prime. I'm wondering if I could just use your login. Anyways, we'll talk later. But he is the CEO of Speak to Inspire, and really on a mission looking at the stigma of mental health actually from a personal basis. And he's been part of a recent MTV documentary film, Each and Every Day, which I have not seen yet, and I really want to be able to see that. I'm so excited to jump in with that as an audience. And last but not least, we have Kenzie Fitzpatrick. Hello there, Kenzie, up there. There's the smile, there's the wave. I like it when they say two-time Emmy winner, two-time Oscar winner. Well, in this case, Kenzie is a, quote, two-time graduate of Florida State University. And 2 weeks after graduating with her master's degree in marketing, she opened up Radical Up, a boutique niche, our marketing company serving medium to small from medium to size businesses with a lot of outdoor focus, but specifically having a great deal of expertise in teaching, training, writing in the firearms industry. So really has what we would used to call the total Renaissance person, athlete, politician, and scholar was the definition of that. Your father would love that one, wouldn't he? So those are just a touch of the background of some of our people. And with that in mind, I'd like to go ahead and jump in and really just throw this out of, okay, but what if, with our people looking, that probably have a lot of different definitions of, quote, entrepreneurship. Oh, yeah, that's Bill Gates, I guess, or what is an how are you fitting that? So if we could kind of dig in and give your kind of self definition about what is entrepreneurship, and I'll go ahead and throw it out to Kenzie because she's right on my eye level and still smiling.
Of course, you'll pick on me first. So I actually think that entrepreneurs are these idealists, dreamers that take action, right? So they are the people that say they're going to do something and do it. And then I define them as people who they work for themselves, but they do serve clients and answer to clients. So we do have people to answer to, but we have this crazy flexible schedule, but it's not as easy as it seems. But entrepreneurship is an amazing way of life. It is not for everyone. And we'll talk about today, but I think failure is a really good thing in the entrepreneurship world. I'm going to popcorn it over to Abraham, by the way.
I love the piece, Kenzie, of that you're pulling in here, that quote, you may or may not also be responsible with or to others. I think sometimes people think, oh, you're by yourself, you do anything you want in the universe type thing. So I love that particular piece. So kind of setting that stage, Abraham, I'm going to throw the lasso over your way a bit, pull you in. What are your newer to this world, and obviously going in a number of different directions of it, but what does it mean if you could kind of give your sense of what that mean to us, to the world?
Entrepreneurship has a lot to do with an individual seeing that there is a problem in the world or some sort of issue, and they have a strong desire to create a solution for that problem. So I think everything that Kenzie said in terms of having those characteristics, being able to be a visionary, someone who has a strong work ethic, who's willing to figure it out and keep pushing even through those hard times, those dark times. I think it really takes that for someone to succeed in entrepreneurship. But the big part for me is we see a problem. We don't necessarily see a solution to that problem. And so we're willing to create that solution for the problem.
Well, that's fascinating. So there's a couple of particular pieces here. And one that's still kind of ringing for me that Kenzie brought up is around action. And Abraham, you're bringing in this piece of kind of a solution-oriented type of mentality that you're directing or that needs to be done and becoming involved in something that would affect others, whether it is a service or a product. Okay, that's helping us a little bit. So I'm going to, Jem, if I could bring you into this particular piece, I'm wondering where this fits in for you in your world, having done it for some period of time.
I would say Elon Musk said is being an entrepreneur is like eating glass, swallowing it, and looking into the abyss of death every single day. I also equate that to being a parent. The same thing, right? Like you just hope that the next piece of toast, somebody put a nail in it, because at least you get the exit. And they're like, he was a great father, like they can't see anything wrong, but he got an exit. An exit. They can't say that he bailed out to do this, but hey, bless his soul, he ate a nail, So I really appreciate what they both said, that they focused on, Abraham and Kenzie, focused on seeing problems, acknowledging what I would say would be the loneliness in it. Because I personally feel when I walk the earth, it sucks, especially now, I feel if I'm gonna go through the amount of pain and suffering to make this thing manifest, because, women deserve all the respect for birthing. I've witnessed it myself. You witnessed me come out, Tom, right?
I did, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, we had the whole vigil. Everybody was there to watch it. I've seen that kind of pain. That's nothing. And I will get all the hate letters, send them to Jim Sparks, please. There's nothing like birthing a company out, because now you've got all these people to get that vision and how it feels in your body of like, oh my God, it's like a joke. Like, wait till I tell Leo this, right? He's gonna die. Like, that's thought, word, action, and response, like, wow. Now try to get that and build a company, get them to buy into the vision, have them insult you all the way through like kids do. This is gonna suck. How long do we have to do this? Like, it's that, to go through that process. So listening to Abraham and Kenzie acknowledge that made me feel great. But that's what it's like for me. I see something, I feel it. That would be amazing. Is it worth the hell I'm about to go through? Emotionally, physically, mentally, which has many times broken me down. So that's how I kind of seed the genesis into something and bring it out.
I guess the piece that comes out from that, Jem, also is this: is there, or what is the sacrifices that you may have incurred or were challenged by through this journey of being an entrepreneur? And then Tom and Leo and Jim may be able to jump in on this particular piece when, you know, you're deciding, okay, I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do this, but here's the pros and cons, but here's the sacrifices to make this work. Kenzie?
Yeah. My life looks so different from all of my friends' lives, right? They clock out at 5 and they're done. They don't have to worry about anything, right? Real talk is entrepreneurs are not supported by banks when it comes to buying a home. By the way, that's a nightmare. Healthcare. I have a really crappy healthcare plan. But no, the sacrifices too are knowing when you've got things to do that you can't go to that dinner, you can't go out that weekend, you know, you can't go on that trip. And it's when you go on those family trips, you're bringing your laptop with you. I've had many times I'm on my phone taking a Zoom call when I'm driving, phoneless or handless. I'm in the car with friends and I'm connected to the internet and working. But you know, you sacrifice, again, like answering to those clients that you have 24/7. You say that you work, you know, 9 to 5 or whatever your hours are, but realistically, I'm never off of work, right? So that's kind of my view. And one thing I want to touch on that Jen said is the loneliness is real. And so often we forget about that. It's a vulnerable piece of entrepreneurship, because I might be free from 8 to 5 in the middle of the day. My friends are at work. What do? Our schedules don't match up, right? You don't have anyone that you can talk to unless you have other entrepreneurs. And I don't mean to leave other people out, but they get it when other people just really don't.
With that piece of, yep, we're not on the same wavelength, time, even zone with other people, but that piece of the isolation, the aloneness, needing to kind of dig deep of, okay, now where do I go? What do I do? How do I get pumped? You know, Abraham, this may be kind of sliding in for you a little bit since, again, much of your subject matter expertise and focus that you have shared with us and the world previously was around what isolation, aloneness, feeling different by way of a mental health issue. But how, in breaking out of that, you had to have, and you've talked to us a little bit about people, support, mentors, resources to come out and be able to then function independently. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, go for it.
And I think what Kenzie is saying about the isolation is on point, because there is a lot of how we think as entrepreneurs that is not necessarily quote unquote normal. And so it's hard to share something that may not be understood, and then to share something that may not be accepted. So I think when it comes to having that support, it's really important to prioritize that ahead of time. What I've learned in my own experience is I can tend to wait until I hit rock bottom and then start to look for, okay, I need some support, I need some help. I've kind of, now I can't even move forward. But as an entrepreneur, it's about identifying those support networks, whether it's other entrepreneurs like Kenzie mentioned. I know for me, and having challenges, building a business, starting a business, going full time into business, needing to go into therapy again because I'm, just having these challenges and a lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings, a lot of things that I may not necessarily be accustomed to. And it's always changing too. So thinking about where can we find these support networks? What other entrepreneurs can we connect to? If we have the ability to even, tap into mental health support, whether it's finding a therapist or finding a group, being able to create those networks ahead of time so that we have that support when we need it.
Abraham, I'm sorry, Kate, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I want to ask something real quick too. So I've been
Yeah.
working from home since 2018 when I moved, actually isolated myself even more, but I don't have a co-working space now where I live or an accelerator, an incubator. So when I want to bounce ideas off people, it's my fish, right? No. But then I also find value sometimes, maybe even like if you and I hopped on a Zoom call and we were literally watching each other work, not talking, not doing anything, just I have that person in the room, right? And entrepreneurs, they are so social creatures, I feel like, because if you're in a room with entrepreneurs, you're going to ask 700 questions of them and their perspective while you have their value, right? So it's just different for me where I literally don't go to work. I don't have coworkers. I talk to myself and I don't know where to go sometimes.
Well, Kate, you guys are bringing up, and I want to pull Tom and Leo on this, but you know me, Tom, tangential, Abraham, one of the things you threw out there, and I'm just, as they like to say, just saying, just throwing it out. But you said, because I have a tendency maybe to kind of go and I can go to rock bottom before I reach out for help. Well, I'm just wondering if that's one of our male genetic sociological issues that we do, where I'm just saying, because I can tell you, I'll say, yep, I'm not going to speak for Jim or Tom or Leo, but one of the old, the male thing was, I don't need help. Maybe there is, for some of us or people in, whether you're an entrepreneur or not about, I'm going to hit rock bottom. They often use that, as you know, in the world of AA, drug, etc., of, quote, needing to hit rock bottom before you pull yourself up. So that was one thing. The other thing I don't want to forget, Kenzie, this just, does this look like an aha moment? Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. But the way you said to me was, sometimes I just get on the Zoom or with somebody else. We're not really interacting. We're in the virtual same space room, and we're not having to entertain or do anything with each other. And quite honestly, I almost fell off the chair. I thought, what a brilliant idea. And who does that? The only thing it reminded me, at one time decades ago when I was looking for work, another friend of mine used to come over to the house with me because he was looking for a job, but we would be in the same room looking for a job, sending out faxes, taking telephone calls, do this type of thing. And then we would go to the beach together and ride for a couple of hours at the beach, bikes. But I love that idea. Leo and Tom, I'm wondering if we might be able to do that starting out every morning. We'll just get on Zoom. We don't have to talk, no entertaining, no theme, and we'll just be in the room together. What do you think? Okay, so with some of those pieces, and Jem, I want to pull you into this, but Leo and Tom, we've been around the block a little bit. We've done some different stuff, but what are you hearing about some of these themes that Jem and Abraham and Kenzie are bringing up about, quote, being an entrepreneur? What's kind of coming up for you guys?
Yeah, I'm thinking of the entrepreneurs having the perfect storm of certain human attributes, like creativity, practicality, innovativeness, prosperousness, visionary. And I think the entrepreneur has the eye of the tiger.
Oof.
And they experience what positive psychologists call flow, total absorption in the activities that relate to their goal. And that means they miss lunch, they miss appointments, they're oblivious to time and space, right, and their own physiological needs. And that's how I see an entrepreneur. I'm not one.
Well, I was just going to say, I thought you those, I thought those adjectives, if I remember, were being given when you graduated from high school, and they were talking about you not being quite the valedictorian, something about a little bit lower, but I thought they used those traits for you. No, okay. Yeah, you're right on about some of that. So we're beginning to talk about traits when they talk about entrepreneurs. Tom, is anything mulling around for you in your life and with our friends today, of anything that comes up for you, having done a fair amount of independent work yourself in your life?
Well, several things. When I listened to Kenzie and Jem and Abraham, and Kenzie, you were talking about the loneliness and the difficulty in getting a bank loan and the difficulty of getting a good healthcare plan. And Jem, you talked about swallowing glass. And Abraham, you mentioned maybe you going back to therapy. I'd like to ask the three of you if it's worth it. If you think about getting a 9-to-5 job at some point.
Right.
And
Why not?
I got it.
Why not a 9-to-5?
I got it.
Perfect question. Come on. Why not 9-to-5?
I am doing every single thing every single day to never, ever, 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 ever go back to a 9-to-5. Now, it might happen. No, it might happen. I promise you, I am terrified of sitting in a chair, being useless, having a ceiling over my head, and having somebody to answer to that isn't going to entertain my ideas, my thoughts, my creativity. I think every single moment that I wake up, I'm like, oh, great, I have a whole task to do. I get to travel when I want. I get to set my schedule. I get to work with who I want to work with. You know what? The other day, I told a client who had a bully of a web developer that he can choose him or he can choose me, because I do not work with people that are nasty or bullies online or rude to me, because you know what? I work for myself. And so it's not worth the money, right? I can't do that at a real time 9-to-5 job. I can't be like, I don't feel like doing that. No, right? So there is totally pros and cons to both. But oh my God, if I never go back to a job, I will be so grateful.
okay.
I think that says it a bit, Jim. Not by looking at your background that you have there or wearing right now, but do you fit in with any of this piece that with the sacrifices have been worth it for you, and choosing who you want to be part of, even though it is this starting all over almost every day? Has it been worth it?
What a great question. And Thomas, I like how you put that together. That's ultimately it. And I agree with Kenzie, because I'd rather die. I would rather die. And normally, Tom, I would swear a word right before I said I would rather die, but because we're on this show, I'm not going to. But you can fill in the blanks of your favorite Fruit Loop and put it in there, because I would rather die than get a job. I haven't had a job. I haven't been unemployed since I was 20 years old. I'm unemployable. I am unemployable. And everything behind me is what inspires me every day. Like, I don't know if I could do a swing around here, but like the whole office is full of like exciting things, because out there, it's the control, the mundane, it's the narrative. How are you? Fine. So I'd rather just walk around with a Pennywise mask. People are going to leave me alone. Don't even ask how he's doing. So I would rather die than ever get a job. The closest thing I ever did was Lyft or Uber driving to, between gigs, like to survive.
Abraham, I'm not sure where starting out with that you've had your ups and downs. You've had incredible success. As you said, you've step back and take a look and say, where do you go from here? With what's being said, what are you feeling, seeing, experiencing through those eyes, mind and heart about your future as an entrepreneur with everything that's being talked about?
Yeah, as I'm listening, I'm resonating a lot with what everyone is saying. And I think one of the biggest things that is helpful for us is that validation, is knowing that, man, it was great to hear someone else say what I was thinking. and I'm getting a lot of that listening to everyone here. When it comes to entrepreneurship, I think for me, at least, and and I think it may be for a lot of other entrepreneurs, it's almost as if it's a calling. It's almost as if it's something pulling you towards something different. I love how Jem mentioned earlier, it's like it's inside of him and then he feels what it feels like. And for me, that's what it's been. And it's like a spiritual calling towards doing this work. And so whatever I have to do in order to make it happen, I got to figure that part out. So when I hear the question, is it worth it? It's almost like it's a no-brainer. Of course it's worth it. And whatever I have to do in order to continue doing the work and living this lifestyle, I'm willing to figure that part out.
Well, then what does it take? What structure, resources, traits, coping, what does it take then to say, yep, there's some major sacrifices, but I'm not going to go back to this level, or I don't want to do that structure. What does it take month after month, year after year, and for some decade after decade to get to this point where you're still saying, yep, I'm going forward, this is what I'm going to do, no matter what anybody says. What do you do with the rest of the world in terms of helping you continue to still go forward? And I'm just throwing that out. Anybody want to jump in?
I want to ask Jem a question actually real quick. Jem, have you worked for other people before?
Yes, I have.
I feel like it takes one bad boss or leader.
I've gotten fired almost from every job, including Alienware. I mean, honestly, the best job I didn't get fired at was as a waiter only on weekends, which I could deal with it at the Le Michel restaurant. And they liked me because I had one little job. My job was to work a buffet, which was easy. My job was to cut the bread in even slices and serve all the tables. I left that job and I've never felt more loved. They were like, you're going, but you're the best bread cutter we've ever had here in decades. And I've never felt like appreciated like that. I felt bad I actually left, but I've had explosive exits and entrances. I work on both of them.
So what other resources are there in terms of, okay, Abraham, you mentioned that maybe there was a bit starting to go down, needing to reach out, get more support. Kenzie, you're talking about, I'm just going to get online, I'm going to do this thing, some people type thing, but you have a tremendous whole other life, or your life, but a whole other life where you are in fact traveling, doing what you love with a parent. I'm just wondering, how do you get those things if you seem to tend to be more individualistic in your style? I know it's kind of been said, well, I've been doing this kind of on my own for a while and I do this and that and type thing. And Abraham's saying, well, sometimes I hit the bottom before I reach out, do this thing. I'm just wondering if there is any type of a profile that tends to be a bit more insular or individualistic around whatever passion that you're focusing, then how do you connect, or what skills you do connect with the rest of the world to give, to kind of pump you up, okay? And I'm going to just throw that out as a general for all of us.
I think one skill that's super important is self-awareness and being able to develop the awareness to know, what am I good at? What am I not so good at? What do I outsource? What are my strengths? And when you have that ability, it helps, at least for me, it helps me to know what resources can I take advantage of. Prior to developing that self-awareness, it's almost like you're just spinning in circles and not really seeing the success that you would hope to see. So I would say self-awareness for one.
Okay, so with self-awareness, let's take that as a touchstone here. With self-awareness, then self-awareness is tremendous. No question, insight, self-awareness, but I guess I'm going to go back to what one of the adjectives that Kenzie threw out about action. So, yep, you can be self-aware and know all there is to know about yourself and all that, and what skill set and where you fit on the disc or on other psychological tests. But what about the action? Okay, then where does the action, and if I could use the term connectedness, to others outside of the product, the service, whatever. Where does that come from, and how do you do it, and how do you maintain it or nurture it?
That's a lot there. So I actually did a DISC assessment and I was low D. I do not know anyone else more driven than I do, at least at what I do. So that was surprising. Jim already said it. You have to be unemployable, like so unemployable. And then you have to also be so in demand, right? I think the best word to describe sometimes entrepreneurs is like, this is an addiction almost. It's kind of like if you like tattoos, I think. I have a podcast and I'm a writer and I'm a marketing person over here and I want to do that. And there's so much that we want to do and accomplish. And I'll let Jem take it from there, but I had to mention that because I do feel like it's an addiction. Jem, you've had how many businesses you said? So it doesn't stop.
Yeah. Taking back from what Leo said, I appreciate Leo because when I see him, I kind of imagine that he just kind of accidentally fell into this chat and he's just like watching TV and he's like, how did I get on Tom's show? But his insight's incredible because he's not stained like the rest of us. He hasn't sipped it yet. So I really appreciate what Leo said about the flow state. And I've worked very hard. And what Abraham said about the calling, man, that is it. It's like everything else outside of us, I've learned, is just an illusion. It's just a bunch of stuff and energy. But what's the only thing we really know is like what's in, but how do you get in there? Well, you got to go squeeze yourself. And I'm in screenwriting class at University of Miami, and they talk about how the main character has to be squeezed by the external plot to deal with the inner stuff. And I do that with my kids, saying, you got to go get a job now, and you got to go do this. And they're like, what? They all turn into Keanu Reeves in my house. What are you talking about? So Abraham, 100% on that calling, because Tom, to your great questions, for me, I'm resolving internal stuff.
Well, with that, I guess, and I'm going to make a reference to Leo, that Leo, I know this is probably going to touch on some things with you that you were talking about. Would you be able to grab it and take on what Jim's telling us now?
Well, I'd like just to make an observation. I see two strong characteristics with our three entrepreneurs. One of them is flexibility. They're able to deal with the unknown, with failure, with mystery, and still not an ambiguity and not be fazed by it. And the other thing is a sense of humor. They can laugh at the stupidity of the world and they can laugh at themselves.
Yeah.
And those two things will take you pretty much anywhere. So that's coming through very strongly.
Yeah, you're hitting so many things, Leo, as usual. You may know or may not know that all of our three guests have applied for the certified wise guy / gal program that we offer. This is continuing education credit towards that esteemed designation. So we're following the human track for everyone here on that. Well, we could go 1,000 different ways, and it's just exploding with so many different areas. Jim, I'm wondering if any of this sounds familiar with all of the work that you did at the University of West Florida in the Center for Entrepreneurship by way of teaching and fairs and online, just everything that was to do about that. How does this sound to you with the work that you did at UWF there in entrepreneurship for a few years?
Yeah, well, we did everything we could to prepare the young people to not actually know what they were stepping into. We don't tell them that they're going to eat nails, chew on glass, die 1,000 deaths. No, that's not actually true. I was actually really interested. I was taking notes throughout this that one of the first things we teach them is that like you can't identify as someone who wants to work for themselves because you never work for yourself. You always are working for your customers and for your employees and even for your family as you get older. And then second thing we teach them is the reference to the blank slate. It's one of my favorite activities where we give them a blank piece of paper and we say, create a masterpiece, create something of value. And so Abraham's reference to that was just really interesting to me, that something that you really have to kind of embrace if you're going to be an entrepreneur. And then visualization of some of the challenges. Of course, I don't think I was quite as colorful. I don't think we did quite as good a job of kind of exploring the realities of it. But to Leo's thoughts, I thought it was really, really insightful, because what it really is there's the hope and the optimism, but there's also the fear and the belief. And so, like, you've always got to believe that there's going to be a soft landing when you're a young man like Abraham, who's, you know, when I knew him, he was about to graduate, you know, about to get married, start a life and a family. And here we are stepping off the edge of a cliff and assuming there's going to be a nice soft landing at the bottom. And Kenzie, who I've known throughout, you know, a number of the efforts and has helped prepare some of those young people, you know, this idea that the self-direction and the ability to control your own world is fantastic, right? And then for Jim, you know, this ability to look into the face of like the unknown and the craziness, and to be able to embrace it and use that as fuel to keep going, I just think is fantastic. So I think it's all on track.
Jim, what about failure though? What do you tell those students about failure?
That failure is a fictional concept. You cannot fail. No, I'm kidding. You know, failure is a part of the construct, but you know, if you look back, sometimes we'll reference Mythbusters. Failure's always an option, and that the only true failure is giving up. So you know, in entrepreneurship, as Kenzie, you know, it's a great question. Like, failure is part of the iterative process, and dealing with that and going out and saying, I want you to buy this amazing new service or invest in this amazing new company, and having them look at you like you're an alien with 4 heads and say, well, that's just a terrible idea. That's not the end, right? That's the beginning. And then you go, well, how do I get to be an alien with only 3 heads, and then 2 heads, and then 1 head, and then be like, wait, maybe I'm a valuable member of society. So
yeah, and I want to ask you guys this on a men's perspective. So I always think that I don't do enough, or I'm not where I'm at, right? I've put in years of work, and I'll see other women doing things to skip that process. It involves body, so I won't go there. But then I'm very self-critical of myself sometimes. Like, I do read comments when I shouldn't. It's always the people doing less than me that is very critical of what I'm doing, right? And then it's always the people that are doing way more than me that are like, you're on track, you've got it, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. They're positive, right? But there are so many people that are watching us and waiting for us to fail, even though failure is not negative, but they are excited when we fail. They want us to fail. And that almost fuels me. So I don't know if that's a different trait or if that's a female thing. I have no idea, but I just want to throw that out there.
That's got me going and thinking, again, with Abraham and with Leo, maybe even with Jim, of, is there something that we can kind of offer to others that may be watching about what you may be able to do as a man or a woman as you embark or to maintain or increase the world of entrepreneurship for you? And I'm just, again, throwing that out if anybody wants to give kind of a couple of last closing responses.
I think to Kenzie's point, it's so important to have the key individuals or key partners where they can validate you in those moments, because it's really easy to be self-critical because you're doing the work, you want the results, you want to get better, you always want to grow as an entrepreneur, you don't want to be stagnant. And so it's easy to catch every little detail and be critical about it. But when you can surround yourself with 1 or 2 people who knows you really well and can say, okay, well, I see where you can make the adjustment and I see where you can improve, but at the same time, you're also doing these things really well. And when we can find those key individuals, it really helps us to continue moving forward rather than kind of staying in those states of just criticizing ourselves and not moving forward.
You know, the highest achievers in the world are never happy with what they do. The lowest achievers in the world are very happy with their accomplishments. You know? And self-criticalness is a sign of a strong ego. An ego is the problem-solving aspect of our psyche. So being self-criticalness is great.
Yeah, and again, without going, this brings up so much, I think we could do a whole other couple of episodes, but I think at this point, I'd like to start to wind down a little bit and with our closing, and any last comment, question, short observation from any of us about what we touched on today? Anybody?
I have a couple of things I'd like to share. Your question earlier that you asked was, what keeps you going? For me, it's the win, man, because I don't know if you guys have ever acted. I have. And when I made my first $300 as an actor, that to me was like, God money. You know what I mean? Like, it was like worth trillions more than the slave dollars I made. Like $300 just goes so long. It's like, because I got to do what was fun and where I want to go. So the wins for me, it's like the triple W. Yeah. So for me, it's a win for me because I had the idea and I'm going to unscheme all this crap I hate out there. It's a win for them because the customer's happy and they go, yeah, I like that stuff. And it's a win for the world because we didn't know we had a problem. So I like the wins because they're triple sized, right?
Well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. And Kenzie, I'm wondering if you need a little bit more energy or excitement in the backdrop. Maybe do that Zoom with Jim. It may be, like having a movie in the background, but you're not really listening or watching it, but it's in there and filling up the room for you. So you may want to try that a bit. Any last closing thoughts from our guests or from our regulars?
Oh, I have to say something. Absolutely. One of the things that is so great about entrepreneurship too, and what we need to change people's mind about, how often do you hear, what do you do for a living? I don't define who I am by what I do for a living. It's who I am, what my passion is, what I stand for, why I'm doing all of this, right? So how can we change that, right? Like, what do you love? Who are you as a person? And I think entrepreneur is something to be really mindful of, is that time and effort is going to apply pressure and you're going to get there, but you have to be process focused. You have this goal, but if you're not willing to put in the steps for years and years and years, you are not going to reach that goal. So you kind of have to work backwards, and it will pay off. And I'll say, like, the naysayers, the negative people, they fuel me, but my gas pedal comes from the one person that I impact. When somebody says, I can do it because you did it, someone messages me, they learned something, they did something because I inspired them to do that. That is literally why I do some of what I do. And then just the last thing is, when people know what you do because your why is so strong and that's why they support you, you've won, so I'll leave with that.
Thank you, Kenzie. And Abraham, since you're in the middle of the screen at this moment in time and space, I'm going to look at you and see if you'd like to help wrap up with what's occurred and what you've been thinking and feeling today with the topic.
Yeah, a lot of what I received and what I would hope would encourage others who maybe is thinking about entrepreneurship, is new into entrepreneurship, is that we are worth more. Like, you're worth more. And I think when the individual sees their value and sees their worth and knows that they can take on this new adventure, it really puts them in the best position possible. And I think that's one thing that I'm learning as well. And that's what I hear being echoed here is, you see your value, you see your worth, and you're willing to create the life that you want to live.
Once again, well said, Abraham. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And with that, I'd like to say goodbye for now to everybody that has joined us today. And boy, it just brought up so much on the personal and the psychological level, as well as the career paths and pieces to this. I just found it so exciting, so motivating. The gas pedal, as Kenzie would say, it's revving up a bit here. See what happens next. So with that, I want to thank everybody. Take care, good luck, and I hope we cross paths again. Okay, Jim?